Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for our Biblio Email Office Hour. Natasha Hesch, our product manager for BiblioWeb and Biblio Email. I always have trouble saying BiblioWeb. I don't know what it is. Natasha's here to answer any questions you may have. We have one question in the partner portal, so we'll tackle that one first. And if you have any other questions for Natasha, please add them to the chat panel on the right side of your screen. If you'd like to turn on a live transcript, you can do so by clicking on the bottom of your screen on the purple bar. And if you want to request a transcript, you can do so. Just let one of us know in the chat or send the Biblio team an email. Natasha, over to you. I'll read out the first question. It was Tiff who added it in the partner portal. And she says, we'd like to venture into sending emails at the branch level within the next year. That's a lot of emails. Yeah, Tiff, that's a lot. Any tips, advice, or insight to consider as we prepare for this?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, Tiff. A few things that initially came to mind. Okay, the first is like around using a template. So as you know, you can create email templates. So one of the questions to think about is like, in your branch newsletters, is it going to be super branch centric in that there'll only be specific content about that branch? Or will it be a combination of both branch information as well as like institutional news that you're wanting to promote, or like certain lists you're wanting to promote? Because depending on that, it would like affect how you set up the template. So if you're really thinking about it being like branch centric and like featuring lists from people at that branch and like news about that branch and events about that branch, then you'd probably want to create an email template for each location. That way you could like filter it to the different like filter event widgets or event feeds to that specific location, and then do manual selection for what content you're wanting to promote. If it's more that you're wanting to do kind of like a monthly newsletter that has like a bit of branch specific content, but like it's a lot of institutional information too, you might want to do like a template that starts off with like the institutional information and then like configure the branch specific stuff after that. Another thing to think about is like, who's creating the newsletters? Are you going to be doing it like centrally, or are you going to want to train some of your branch staff to be involved so that they could like they could create the draft and then like you would maybe review it centrally? So those are a couple of things to think about. But the other thing I'll mention, I will plug a suggestion from Matt in the partner ideas portal. So Matt put in a suggestion that he would like some location-based email customization. So depending on what locations a person has selected as their preferences, that the like events widget, for example, could be personalized based on that. So please upvote this if you're interested. The other thing I'll mention is I know Pima County Library is doing branch specific emails. I am not totally sure what their process is, but I'm sure that like Amy or Chris would be happy to share what they're up to. So I can reach out to them and find out what's happening with their process and include you. And if there's other people interested in this topic, just chime in on the feed loop chat and I can CC interested parties and then put together a little article or something about like what they're up to, so others can benefit. Yeah, and if there's any libraries here that are doing branch specific emails. Would love to hear what your process is like, if you can just chime in on the chat.
So Natasha, Tiff says, yeah, that'd be great when you offer to provide more context for that. She also added a little bit more context in regards to her question. She said, we have some branches that currently send emails via MailChimp, Substack, etc., and we want to give an option for them to do that in a more standardized and formalized way, and create the opportunity for branches with less capacity to still create an email for their patrons too.
Yeah, I've heard of other libraries who have library branches that are kind of rogue with their like emailing. So I guess like another piece would be like when you're moving those branches off of MailChimp or whatever other service they're using, is you'll want to do a contact import to bring their mailing lists into BiblioEmail. So that would be another piece. And you'd want to select the location, the relevant location preference on their behalf. But only if users are not in the system already, because if they're already in the system, that would overwrite their preferences. Let me take that away and think about the best way to get that delta. Yeah, and then I think so if we had the functionality where this functionality that Matt suggested, that would really help for any branches that don't really have like an interest or staffing to be able to send out a monthly branch specific newsletter, but would still allow you to promote location specific content in the email. And then for branches that are like investing staff time in creating their email already, like it might be worth considering if you want to give them like editor permissions on BiblioEmail, so they could like create their email but not send it. But that would be kind of a library decision. It might make them feel like they're still like kind of like controlling the messaging. But I guess it depends on like your marketing people, like how much they're willing to involve branch staff versus do things centrally.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Tiff also says, and she mentioned that branches have been doing things. You mentioned going rogue. They have been doing things on their own for a little while, and they've been collecting their own sign-up methods. So there's a lot of learning that needs to happen first before deciding to make the first move. Matt did ask a question here, Natasha, and he says, is there a way to email only by primary location and not secondary or tertiary? I'd be anxious that customers could get up to 3 emails at once.
Yeah, and you are hitting, you're hitting the nail on the head, Matt. So unfortunately, when location preferences was implemented, it's a flat set of 3. So it's not a ranked order of 3. So I think like if we were to add location-based personalization, we would also need to have location preferences be a rank order. I have not yet pulled data about like how many users select like 1 versus 2 versus 3 locations to like see what the data looks like and how big of a problem this will be. But I think like that rank order would be important.
Okay, all right, makes sense. While we wait for more questions to come in, I don't know if you have anything else to share with us.
I do.
Okay.
Okay. We sent out the 4.14 release notes. I just want to call attention to a couple of the upcoming pieces of functionality that are coming out. So one is that we're adding 2 new contact fields. So this will be for all contacts. There'll be new fields for last 4 digits of library card and library card expiry date. So this is useful for libraries who are doing monthly emails, giving users notice about an upcoming card expiry. So we do have an article about like how to set up a drip campaign for this, for like your library card is expiring soon. But essentially, with the 2 new fields, you would be able to include the last 4 digits of library card and the exact library card expiry date in the body of the email. So just providing patrons with a little bit more data. This is especially useful for patrons who might have their email address on like multiple accounts in your ILS. So a parent with like 3 kids might have their email address on all the accounts. So this would just let them know the specifics of like what library card is being referred to. This really is meant to be used for libraries who are doing monthly campaigns. This data changes, so people lose their library card, they get a new library card. Library card expiry date like changes over time because people renew it. So this is really meant to be like when you're importing fresh information about like, okay, these like 5,000 users card is expiring next month, and I'm going to import a tag about that set of users, or add a tag to those users that I'm importing. That's the point where you could add these data points so that you have the freshest information from your ILS. So we would never import this type of information in like an initial ILS import for a library. It's really like, this can get out of date. So it's really, you want to get the fresh content. So that's one new thing that's coming. The other thing that's coming is there's going to be support for libraries to request custom fields. So if you wish, you could import information from another service you use and include an email token with that data point in an email, that will now be supported. So let's look at the article just to like make that sentence more real, because it's like a bit abstract. But basically, libraries can request all sorts of different data types of contact fields be added. So an example is, I know at Westerville Public Library, they used to do a library card anniversary email blast to patrons. So on like a monthly basis, they would email patrons about like, oh, congratulations, you've been a library card member since X date. This custom field, could be added for date for library card anniversary, and then the library could use that as part of, again, like a monthly import that they're doing their email campaign around, and include that data point in the email as an email token. Westerville Public Library used to also do include like a count of books read as part of their 1,000 books before kindergarten program. So they have their library patrons use Beanstack to keep track of their participation in the program. And then I'm not sure the frequency, but I think they used to do maybe like quarterly, where they'd be like, this is like your progress, you've read X books out of 1,000, like, and kind of like celebrating the progress. So the idea is by like being able to like add that count, it could be like a bit more inspiring to patrons in the email messaging. So this article is long, as you can tell by the table of contents. There's lots of stuff in here. If your library is interested in this concept, I recommend reading the article so you can like think about how you might want to use custom fields, and then you would just submit a support ticket and we could get those set up for you. A couple other things I'll just mention is like when you are setting up, what did I want to say? Yeah, like when you're importing information about patrons from different sources, it's like important to think about like the data freshness of it. So is it something like library card anniversary date that like it's never going to change? It's like always that date for a patron. Or is it something that is like kind of time limited? Like this information is going to like change over time. It's like important to think about that to make sure that if you are using email tokens to embed data, that you're not like emailing patrons who maybe participated in this like a couple years ago or something. So it's important to like include kind of tags sometimes in combinations with this custom data that you're importing to make sure that you're targeting the patrons that you want. And the drip campaign example about like your library card is expiring soon gets into those details of how to leverage tags to make sure that you're like contacting the patrons that you want. And that can be used kind of in combination with your other data point. And yeah, I'm sure Eliana could like speak a lot more eloquently about email marketing drip campaigns as she is our lead.
No, you're doing a superb job. Seriously, Natasha. I do see two more questions that did come in.
Great.
So we'll jump to those, and if you have more to share, we'll jump back.
Okay.
So I mean, first of all, Tiff, Matt, your questions are rocking. So thank you for asking them. You've been so collaborative in all the sessions and we totally love you. Tiff has a question that she asked, and she started off by saying she's probably admitting her ignorance, but I disagree because I think it's a fabulous question. She wants to know, and she says she still can't quite figure out how to tell how many people unsubscribe after a specific email instead of just generally unsubscribe from emails. Is there a way to know that?
Yes. I'm just trying to think about where I can show this. So I'm going to show you where it appears, and then you can look at it in your interface. I don't want to pull up a real site because there's obviously patron SPI in your email products. So after you send an email, obviously my sales site has like the smallest email list.
Oh, and Natasha, Matt added an expansion to Tiff's question, which is there any way to get tracking of spam reports?
Tracking of spam reports. Yeah, let me jot that down and think about it here. Oh.
I think it wants you to refresh the page.
I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, like stop giving me this waving motion. Okay, so when you look at an email that you've sent, in this block at the top, there is an unsubscribed column, and this might look, well, in my case, there is nothing in it. But it might look like there's nothing in it, but basically you just have to mouse up, and then you're going to see the count. So especially if you're mailing to like a giant mailing list of like 50,000 people, and like 20 people unsubscribed, that is not going to show up on the bar graph. So you have to do this like little mousing action.
Okay, Tiff says that theirs always says 0.
Let me poke around in your site after, just to take a look.
Okay, and Matt adds that the same happens with their instance.
That you're always seeing 0?
Yep.
Let me test this. It shouldn't. It should show your count. Unsubscribed test.
Okay. And Tiff added that it also happens for bounced.
Okay, that you're seeing 0 here as well.
Mm-hmm.
That shouldn't be the case. We should be recording numbers. So let me test out on our stage environment, like unsubscribing and like bouncing some users, just to make sure we don't have a bug. If there is a bug, I'll queue up a ticket to get it fixed. But yeah, let me investigate that more.
Okay. Matt says that for their instance, they see some bounce, but they don't see unsubscribed. And so he suggests that maybe all the emails are just so good, which is why no one is unsubscribing, which I think is very possible. Okay, so that was good. So you're going to be looking into that. And the other one was, is there any way to get tracking of spam reports?
Yes. Sorry, I'm like a little rusty on like how this works. But I know I wrote an article about it. You like there's yeah, so we do monitor libraries' complaint rates, and we get notices. I feel like I feel like we added a segment that you can look at to view. What might it be called? And I'm not even sure that it's on my sales site. Oh, what was it? Segment. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look. I'm gonna have to investigate further what the name of the segment is, but we added a segment to all Biblio email instances that tracks spam reports. And it's a library facing segment that's used by our developers when we get notices that we have set up to trigger alerts to our team, or if a library submits a ticket wanting us to investigate something related to spam and bounces. But I can't remember the name of this segment, and I'm not easily finding it. So let me follow up with you on that. Can you tell me a little bit more? I think Eliana, Matt said like tracking of spam report. Is it just kind of like spam numbers over time?
Let's see if Matt answers that. He's curious which emails cost the spam report.
Okay. Yeah, let me take a look.
And Tiff says, she sees in reports, unsubscribe, bounce report, that some instances say mail provider indicated unsolicited email or some other kind of email abuse. Is that the same as spam, is what she asks?
Can you read out that name again of that segment?
Do you want me to just read out where she finds it or the actual statement?
Yeah, the actual statement.
It says mail provider indicated unsolicited email or some other kind of email abuse.
Yeah, sorry. I know I have an article that describes how this works. Oh, it's a report. That's why I couldn't find it. Okay. So I'm not sure that this is the same one as what's actually on production. So on your email manager instance, you'll have a do not contact report. And that will list out the reasons why a user was added to the do not contact report, whether they unsubscribed or marked something as spam. I don't think it shows what email it came from. Yeah. And it might not describe. Okay, so unsubscribed will sometimes show unsubscribed via BiblioWeb form, but I actually wonder if sometimes it might also have something to do with spam. It might give a different reason, but I don't think it actually ties it back. Like from the report, you can't see which email it ties it back from. I can see if that's something you can easily add. I'm not totally sure, but let me chat with a dev about it. Yeah, and we can find out. And if it's easy to add, I can provide instructions in like the next release notes on how you could manipulate that report. Because I don't think it's locked down. If it is, I can look at just adding it en masse.
Okay, well, thank you.
Sorry, it took me a while. I was like, I don't remember where this is.
No, you're all good. Matt says thank you. And a little bit earlier, Matt asked a question. There's an experiment that he wants to run, and he wants to know if it's now possible. And so he asks, when adding new entity options, is it technologically feasible to add a per user image field? So the experiment that he would love to try out is one where he can send customers holiday emails with a programmatically generated image of their first name handwritten out and have the image added as a URL reference on import.
Can you read it again?
So he wants to see if he can send a holiday email with a programmatically generated image of their first name so that the image has the name handwritten out, and then have that image added as a URL reference on import. Matt, don't worry about it. He's apologizing. He's like, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I guess like I don't know enough about like programmatically creating images. Where's my custom fields friend here? Yeah, so for the contact custom fields, you can do a URL, but that shows, I think that would show the actual URL. And not like an image. Yeah, I'm not sure that that is possible. I can check with our lead dev. And do you have an example of like the website that creates the images and the subsequent URLs?
We'll wait to see if he has an example. He's totally happy to chat about this separately. But what he's saying that you could do is to store the image on their own server and then just include a URL to it on the email data import. But again, I don't know if that's still is covered by your URL question right there.
I don't think this will work.
Okay. And so he says that he would be generating them locally in Python.
Oh, so fancy.
I know, it's super cool, right?
I don't know how to do that.
Matt, I think that you need to run a session on how we can all do that because it sounds amazing.
Yeah, I don't think this will work, but I can do a test run on our stage environment with a URL that's of an image URL, but I don't think it's gonna convert it.
Okay. Yeah, I feel, Matt, like that was your soft pitch for your next BiblioCon 2024 presentation proposal. We'll take that into account. Okay, well, I don't see any other questions coming in at the moment. So, Natasha, if you want to jump over to anything else that you want to share with the crew.
I guess an open question to the group, with the addition of being able to have custom fields, is anyone kind of thinking about ways their library might want to look at using these? Does anything kind of come to mind for people?
Question. Let's see.
And if Tamara from Westerville is here, thank you for sharing the ways you would like to use it earlier with me. It's just helpful to be able to provide examples.
It's a little quiet out there. I don't see any custom field example. Oh, one just came in. One possibility EPL has been considering is using the URL field for a per customer survey link.
Okay, interesting. How I haven't seen a survey tool that does like unique URLs per user. How does that work, Matt?
Really good question. Matt's devising his own survey tool. No, that's not the official answer. He hasn't answered yet, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I guess another question I would have for the group is we activated email scheduling and content freshness for everyone back in August. Just would love to hear how that's going for your library. Are you using email scheduling? Are you taking advantage of event widgets? Yeah, would just love to hear how that's going.
Yeah, for sure. So to answer your previous question in regards to the survey, Matt isn't entirely sure of the details, but he knows that in places that he's worked at previously, they have done it presumably. It just adds some ID parameters to the URL.
Oh, okay, cool. And I guess the benefit is that like patrons can only submit once and can't just be like endlessly submitting, but under like.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder too if I would potentially identify them, although you would probably maybe not want to do that.
Yeah.
Uh,
I haven't heard of libraries doing that before, so I was curious.
Yeah. So Kathleen from Glenview Public Library says they love scheduling, so that's really good. Tiff in Chicago mentions, yes, our marketing team uses the scheduling a lot now.
Great.
Okay, and Matt shared a link, and I can share that with you over Slack, Natasha. It's an example of custom images, and it's the service he's used previously. Just toss that your way.
Great. Image link. Interesting. Yeah, there might be a way to do this. Let me play around. I can report back. Because basically, instead of exposing the image or the URL, let's just take a look here. Okay, so I am on production, like 5 million logins.
Matt says, thanks. Sorry to be the resident math scientist.
No, it's like very interesting to like get questions like this. It's like things that I would never think of. Okay, so if you're using a photo module, and then you could use the URL, and then I think you would use like whatever the name of your custom field was. Like that, and then I think it could customize the image. Yeah, let me test this on stage, and if it works, I will, well, either way, I'll let you know. But if it works, I'll update the custom fields article with like how to do this for libraries that might be interested.
Okay, great. Well, he says, thank you, Natasha.
Yeah, no problem. Fun question. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, how does this work? Yeah, so it's like using a different module and then using the email token in where the module pulls the data from. Yeah, fun. Okay, just making a note to myself. Try it on stage. Other questions? Things people want to look at?
I don't see anything popping up right now, but we can give people a bit more time. it's a little quiet. So I don't know if there's anything else that you had on the list of things that you wanted to share. And if not, maybe it's because there have been so many amazing questions coming in.
Yeah, there's nothing else that was kind of top of mind to share. I wanted to point out those 2 new pieces of functionality that we looked at in the release notes.
Well, Matt did ask an interesting question to Tim earlier.
Mhm.
And so he's going to toss the same question over to you. He asks, what's the weirdest tip that you might have that you wish that people would ask about?
Oh, the weirdest tip for Biblio email.
Yeah, like what's a little like nugget or a workaround or something that's super cool in Biblio email that you would love for people to ask you about?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I guess. I already kind of mentioned this, but I think like, well, actually, let me pull in my card collection instead. I think I guess like I think it's interesting to think about like leveraging feeds for emails. In like and not just manual selection. I think there can be a tendency to be like manually selecting each piece of content. But as libraries are like sending like more emails to like specific intersections of like interests and like very specific segments, it can be a time saver to use the card feeds. Yeah, so I think I would just like be reminding people that like not every email has to be like everything specifically manually curated, that there is that option for feeds. And with the content freshness and scheduling, like we like on a daily basis are pulling the freshest content. So if you're scheduling an email in advance, you don't have to worry about like old events getting promoted or something like that. Any kind of cards that expire off the site get removed from the email. Yeah, so I guess like if you're promoting event feeds, you get the added benefit of like how many days out you want to have the events happening. The default is 4 days out. Typically like 80% of patrons open emails within the first 48 hours. So this still gives like a couple days after, but you could extend that. If you are looking to kind of just promote other content types, like maybe you just want to promote like the latest staff lists or like blog posts about a specific genre. And this is my sales site, so it's like a little spotty. Oh, and I'm also in the wrong the wrong area. Yeah, so just like thinking about like, do you need to be manually picking each piece of content, or is there space for leveraging those feeds? Because that is kind of like One of the powers with integrating Biblio email with Biblio web, it's like you don't have to be like, well, you don't have to be manually creating all your content, but you also don't need to be manually selecting it all. You can like leverage those feeds. I totally get like wanting to do like manual curation for maybe the top premier positions. But if you're wanting to kind of showcase some other stuff, feeds are a great option.
Yeah, that's a really good tip, Natasha. Let the integration between the products do the work, and then that way you can save some time.
Mm-hmm. Especially as libraries think about like branch level newsletters.
Yep.
If you have 65 emails, you don't want to be manually picking stuff.
So true.
Cool. Anything else?
I don't see anything else, but if anyone has any other questions after we go offline, I'm sure Natasha would be happy to jump in and answer them later.
Yeah, definitely. And with like email, I know it's like a newer product and people are still learning. So if you have questions, you can always submit them into a ticket, and our support team will help you. And if they're not sure about something, they just loop me in. I do weekly office hours with the support team, and we look at anything that they're unsure of. So yeah, let us know.
Yeah, and Tiff says, thanks for answering our very specific questions with a smiley face. And Matt says, really looking forward to experimenting with branch emails, especially at times like the summer where we could do a weekly what's happening in your local branch email for parents.
Yeah, that's a really fun idea.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Natasha. We put you on the hot seat and you provided a lot of really great answers for everyone.
No problem. Thanks for your questions, everyone, and thanks for attending.
Hey, thanks. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next at the Biblio Apps office hour if you're going to be attending. Have a good one.